evening and welcome to the Bryan Board of Public Affairs meeting for April 7th, 2015. First on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the March 17th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Al?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Number 2, a hearing of public concerns. I did receive one, and that is, we had someone who wrote in, do you have information for private citizens about installing solar panels and the credits one might receive from BMU on a monthly basis or guidelines to follow? I know we talked about this a little bit in DC. It's not so cut and dry, but.
No, it's not cut and dry. So currently we have nothing in place, okay? And because we are home rule and we don't fall under the PUCO, we don't have to offer a rebate program or a buyback program of that kilowatt hours that are generated from that. The industry itself considers this sort of a moving target. You know, it's a benefit to the utility to have other solar production within our footprint, but it's also, there's problems that come with that, some engineering problems. Currently what we have on the books is we do not allow anybody, any group inside the city limits to be interconnected with us and generate back onto our system, any shape or form. So large generators like at the hospital or some of the industrial complex buildings, when they transfer their load or they run their generators, they are not interconnected with us. There's the safety reasons for that. Okay, so that's one of the reasons I would say not yet. The other reason is we really need to do a cost of service study in the electric department, which is something that's on the agenda to do later this summer to get this thing going, to look at the overall rate structure to see if it's sufficient for where we're going in the future, as well as to encompass those solar, wind, or whatever needs that are out there, okay, for the residential side. We really need to have some kind of language in place that calls out what we would accept and what we consider a payback value would be, you know, and there's an argument that people think that the payback should be exactly what they pay for their power. So if it's 9 cents or if it averages 10 cents a kilowatt hour, that's what they want. What they're mistaken and they don't understand, there's a cost to get that power from point A to your door, be it in infrastructure, man hours, trucks, the whole thing. So that there's a number there that power is valued at, the raw cost of that power. I don't know what that is yet here and how it affects us. So I would say if a consumer was going to put solar on their house, I'd say first of all you almost have to go through the zoning commission and see if there's any kind of zoning guidelines on that as well, you know, because it's the way they look. And number 2, there's nothing in place for us right now to buy the power from you or to assist you or do anything with it. If anything, we're probably going to be more on the side where we're going to direct on how we want to see that connection between that solar array at your home and our meter set. And there will be no potential where you can generate back onto us because of the safety issues that are involved in that. So,
The other thing they mentioned in DC was that some of the contracts that are out there have some misguiding information, and you can actually end up signing yourself into a lease that then you can't sell your home without doing something with this lease and stuff. So it's definitely buyer beware.
yeah, I would caution anybody that has been approached to do solar on your home or on your property to really do due diligence and see what you're getting involved with. The other side is that utilities have to be concerned about, and some of these southwest utilities in the southwest part of the country are experiencing this. All these solar projects kicked off on the residential level, and the developer of A has left. They're no longer there. They're not even a company that's in place. And these homeowners have something go wrong with their arrays, and who they going to call to fix it or to take care of this because you have to? They want to call the utility, and that's not what we do. You know, then you have upset customers, and we have a lot of solar arrays out there not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I just think there really needs to be some thought process in this. And right now, I know with AMP, there's a lot of those communities that belong to AMP are doing some studies to see what makes sense for the community. Oberlin is one of those communities, and they're very progressive when it comes to solar and distributed generation. And Mr. Doopy is going to keep me in the loop, if you say that. when they're finished up, and they should be finished up with their study, my guess would be probably middle of the summer, so I'll have a better feel, I'll get a copy of it, but they'll supply that and let us look at it, but I don't have anything right now. That's probably not the right answer, but it's where we're at.
In October, and we were Columbus, remember, that's on the planning committee, item number 8. We were talking about that, but there's some legal things. Remember they said what other government agency would be involved? But that's going to be ironed out before we can even progress there, and that's to have a community affair. But that's number 8 on our planning.
So yeah.
And that's why we haven't had no progress, because we got to find out, because we, about a corporation, remember? And the lady said, hey, wait, I think she told you that there's a FCA or some kind of other franchise group we would be involved.
There's a larger movement going towards what they call community solar, where the utility owns the solar and the customer is allowed to buy into the program and have some ownership rights or raw power cost rights. So if the power coming out of that solar field is X, and these customers of ours, let's say, wanted to buy into that project, they would be guaranteed on their bill that power for that price. So there's a movement that way, and what that does, it allows the utility to take care of the solar array, all its needs. We're the body who does that. You're just a shareholder getting the benefit. And then the positive on that is those shareholder rights can be sold and transferred to other entities. In fact, there's some cases where, example, a grandma bought X for their family, their sibling, their sons, daughters, whatever, that live in this community, shares for them for their power bill. So there's a lot going on there. Minnesota's really progressive on it. This is a huge movement right now in APPA.
In other words, you'd be a shareholder like a stockholder in that entity. And that's where we're running afoul.
So that actually goes to board members going to the APPA National Conference, because you will be educated on this there. There's a lot of seminars that are going to be dealing with this. So, but yeah, probably not what your consumer wanted to hear, but that's where we're at.
Thank you. Number 3 then is a resolution to enter into contract for the East Village Edition Underground Electric Replacement Project Phase A.
Okay, this should be resolution number 14, 2015, a resolution authorizing the Bryan Director of Utilities to enter into contract with Michigan Underground LLC for the East Village Edition Underground Electric Replacement Project Phase A at a total cost of $40,248. A little background on that project. We did send out 10 bid books to the potential bidders or contractors. The clerk received 3 back, so she had 3 submittals back. The bid opening was March 24th, 2015 at noon. The bid consolidation, we had Majack, a local company, bid. We had S&S Directional Boring, sort of a local company, bid as well, and then Michigan Underground. There was not a huge price spread, but a significant one, between $15,000 and $20,000 spread. The project does encompass the rear easements of the 1,000 to 1,300 block of Bavarian and Colonial Lane. So if you take Bavarian and Colonial Lane in the middle there, that easement that runs all the way to Palmer Lane, and lands itself behind 215, 223 Palmer Lane. So it's just a straight shot from Union all the way back to Palmer, and it makes a little jog to the north. We're replacing that section of cabling. When I say cabling, it's primary and secondary cables around. Relocating transformer pads and transformers, updating the transformers, and relocating junction boxes. The pricing is really a good price for as much stuff that's back there. And I say stuff, I mean there's everything. That is a small easement back there.
Everything.
And there is sewer, phone, our competitor cable, our fiber, our power. I mean, I wouldn't want to put a shovel in the ground back there. It's
A lot of fences.
And a lot of fences.
Way over.
So, the department, Al and his team, evaluated this and are making the recommendation to go with Michigan Underground. This is built into the 2015 budget. We had $100,000 in the budget. Part of that was to buy the transformers and pads and stuff, but we anticipated the pricing to be a little more than this, so this is a good price. questions?
Some of this has already been replaced out in there, hasn't it?
There are
I mean,
sections.
this section, well, on Palmer Lane around by the, was it Foxco Apartments?
Yeah, so notice this is Phase A. We know this is a multi-year project, like the last couple large underground projects. So Phase B, if it migrates to the north piece, which Jim sort of alluded to with his marker there, we would exclude those areas that have already been bored, because it doesn't make sense to rebore something we've already done. So the next phase, which will be, if there's dollars left in that line item, when this project's over by the end of summer, we may try to wrangle those and consolidate them and see if we can go out for bid again and get a little more with this year's dollars. If not, it will be in the 2016 budget, where they're going to do the next section. So,
But we won't need to, how do I want to say this? The part east of Palmer Lane, I guess, what would you say, in the new section back there? That doesn't need to be, is that
Well,
scheduled to be replaced?
Everything along the, if you're going on Palmer Lane, everything to the east of there, we ran new three-phase back probably about
Okay.
10 years ago.
Okay.
And then everything on the north side of Palmer Lane between the pool and Fox Club Apartments has all been replaced all the way around to where Dollar General, three-phase
Yeah.
box by Dollar General back there, that's all been replaced.
So once this is done, then actually you'll just have like one more stretch from Union Street going east?
Right, my plan is to take Phase B to the south, between between Colonial and East Wilson. That would be our Phase B. And Phase C would be the north part from Union Street to the three-phase junction box by Dollar General, Fox Club Apartments back there. That'd be the Phase C part of that project.
Okay.
If you can follow it.
Yeah, trust me, I follow you.
yeah, we'll be behind your house this
Yeah, I
summer.
was going to say, I've already said it back
The guys like donuts in the morning and coffee.
there. Yeah, it'll be on. Okay, I'll make a motion, we approve.
Second.
Jim?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Number 4 then is a resolution to authorize the renewal of a cable television franchise agreement with Center Township.
Okay, this will be resolution number 15, 2015. It's a resolution authorizing the Director of Utilities to renew the cable television franchise agreement with Center Township, Ohio, in accordance with the agreement attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. So I was contacted by the Center Township Fiscal Officer, Jim Davis. And Jim notified me that during a recent audit of their stuff with the state, it was discovered that our franchise agreement with them had recently expired. Okay, and Jim did acknowledge that we were, current on our payments as the franchise agreement would have us pay, but that he asked that we review the now expired document and make the appropriate changes that would reflect what would be needed today. And so I contacted Joe Farrell from the Communication Department, and Joe went through it. And the document is very cookie cutter-ish, if you want to say. It's very basic. It's the same one that you'll be looking at when you look at the Plasky one. Inside of that, though, there was things that we would provide for the public access channel. And we called out that equipment, the type of camcorder, the type of, and those devices after 10 years are not the same, that. So we called out what we would need today. I then sent this on to Rhonda, and then Rhonda did a little research to make sure it was still needed and did some other things and sent it back to us, approved the form, and was okay with she had another attorney look at it as well. So then I did give Mr. Davis a call, and I said, our goal would be, I'm going to send you a copy, let you look through it. The only changes we really made were formatting changes as well as the equipment changes. Mr. Davis asked that we want a longer term contract, and I was more comfortable with a 10-year, just because at the 10-year mark, it gives us time to reevaluate the equipment and what's out there and what this thing actually talks about. I don't want it just to keep rolling and rolling and rolling. I did let Jim know that we would bring it to the board meeting tonight, and he was okay with that. So what you have is a renewal of an existing agreement that we had in place. We are current, we just kept going with it. I'll be honest, it just slipped through the cracks that it did expire, and we didn't realize it, so I thank Jim for giving us a heads up on that.
So this will cover the next 10 years?
Yes.
Okay.
can make a motion.
Second.
Al?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes. Number 5, a resolution to authorize the renewal of a cable television franchise agreement with Pulaski Township.
So this is resolution number 16, 2015, a resolution authorizing the Director of Utilities to renew the cable television franchise agreement with Pulaski Township, Ohio, in accordance with the agreement attached as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference. So after working with Center Township Fiscal Officer Jim Davis, we felt that we probably should pull the Pulaski one as well, because they were all signed very close to the same time, and we noted that this one expired as well. You know, we just went through the expiration of this. So I contacted Fiscal Officer Connie Simmons of the Pulaski Township Group, and I explained to Connie why I was calling for one thing. And I said, I do apologize, this agreement has expired, but I want to work on this for you. And of course, you know, getting that phone call, she's like, well, Jim just called me too, because they all work together, so she was aware of it. And I told her, I said, I would like to go through your agreement, make those same changes, and then double check that the agreement, and I said, I hate to use the term cookie cutter, but they're identical. I said, I do want to go through and lay them down and make sure that your changes match what I provided to Center Township, that way nobody's getting anything different, and I'll supply you with a copy to distribute to your trustees, and I would like to also take this to the April 7th meeting. I did not send this to Rhonda. I felt she went through the first one for me, then all I did was a name change. I don't think I have to ask her again, but if you want me to, I could have. But Connie was okay with this going to the meeting. Again, this is a 10-year renewal. Maybe a little easier for us to track, knowing that they are approved the same night, take effect the same time, and we can track out that way. So that's what you have in front of you.
Questions? I'll entertain a motion.
That's a move.
I'll second.
Al?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Number 6, an update and discussion on the GT2 repairs and needs.
Okay, so I really didn't include a lot in your summary on this because Matt and I were still compiling and putting some stuff together. And when I say us, I'm being very general in the sense of who all's been working on this. Matt has spent a considerable amount of time on it. Nathan Gardner has spent a considerable amount of time on it. And Rhonda has spent a considerable amount of time on this, okay? So we've had Rhonda involved on this particular project in the sense of the legal side, but we also used her as a 4th or 5th member of the management team to bounce ideas off of, okay? Because a lot of times doing what we're doing, sometimes we can get project driven, and I wanted that objective side to, here's our thought process, tell us if we're getting crazy. And I trusted Rhonda, and she followed us through, and there was times that she was like, well, that makes sense, but this, I want you to think about this. So that way we were where we wanted to be, and we were pretty much happy with his decisions. Okay, so we know the original scope of the project was around $911,000 that was board approved, and that was for Sulzer Turbo Care to basically tear down the rotor, inspect it, if needed, minor blending of the blades, minor repairs of the equipment that was on that. There was no new equipment, no extra goodies. This is the price to get to here, okay? So basically you took the car in and said, this is what's broke, and if it goes over this price, stop. So that, that's a very rough analogy. We, as in Matt and our team, we knew there would be a change order, and the guys that work for us here would know that I'm not really big on change orders, but we knew this one was going to happen. We knew something. So when we got the phone call back that, okay, we've got this thing tore apart, we've sandblasted everything down, here's the major breakage that we're finding, here's the things after all the x-ray and the metallurgical testing that we found, and there's some things we didn't expect because of the age of this and how it's been ran over all these years that we didn't expect to be bad, but you're seeing some failure in these. Doesn't mean they're failing right now, but they're going to fail. Okay. So on that, there were adjoining bolts that join the two halves together. There's 36 of them. You know, those were all bad. another retaining ring, I think it's called a retaining ring, I'll have to ask Matt the true name. Is it a retaining ring?
It's a disc, they call it a
A
disc.
disc? That was outside the scope of this. So then we instructed Matt and said, hey, you know what? We need a all-inclusive, we need to know the price of this change order. What's this gonna put the total price at? What's, I hate to say that the most economical, which means the cheapest way, and what's the right way? And during the process, we started asking, is there a rotor unit hole put together on the shelf somewhere there that could do what we need to? So there's a lot going on the last couple of weeks on this unit. So what we did, we received a quote back for them to replace 122 bad compressor blades. When we say bad, that means they're chipped, nicked, microfractured, ready to fail, and they cannot be blended any farther. And you know, you have something that's 100%, and the design tolerances allow you to go down to 75%, and when we say it's at the very minimum, it's already blended and shaved down to the 78% level, there's only just a little bit of wiggle room, okay? That would increase the total price to $1.325 million. Okay, so 1.3, so 911 plus the extra put us at 1.325. That has no warranty, because that is taking what we currently have, blending it down to the very minimum engineering allowable numbers, and saying, here you go. When that happens, you also have this risk that it could fail, because they're telling you, you know, we're giving you the economical version, no warranty, and you're going to lose some production on it because we've really reduced how this thing makes airflow, makes it spin. So I asked Matt, I said, okay, then give me, not the Cadillac, but give me, I don't want to say Chevy, I'll say Chevy and Ford fix. That way we're not discriminatory there. And that's replacing 950 compressor blades back to 100% brand new, 100% efficiency. Where's that put us at? And that puts us at 1.525. Okay, so from the 911, it'd be $600,000 change order, gets us to that
That's
1.525.
2,000 over above the other one.
Yes, $200,000 over the other one. So then we have this option 3, which is this rotor whole unit sitting at Sulzer. Matt did some investigating with them. There's a couple things that red flag us. It looks enticing because the trading value of ours, all these wonderful things, brings that price down to 1.3 million, completely done, ready to go, ship out the door type thing is what you'd want to think. It's not necessarily the case. What we found is the whole rotor assembly they have has been sitting on the shelf since the early 2000s. It does have a row of fins that's been damaged since then, like something bent them, banged into them, bent them. So this unit has to be stripped down anyways to be inspected, because for them to warranty what they have, it has to be stripped down and gone through and put back together and sent to us. That's problem number 1. Okay. Problem number 2 is that's not truly a change order. You're buying a new piece of equipment, so you would basically have to pay the bill on what we've done now and go back to the table with a whole new bid book and all this time, and we have to spec it out in such a way that we have a shot at that rotor. Because you're going to put a spec together that says, hey world, anybody who has this M191 rotor that can do this, throw us a bid. And it has to be at this such level that we're comfortable with it. So when Matt brought that to me, we discussed that. We discussed it for quite a long time. And I said, one of the things I want to look at, even though that $188,000 savings is there, I really want to be critical, and I want to find out what life expectancy value is on that rotor right now. Because we know it's a used one, and it's been on a shelf. There's a number, it's not 100%. And we know the 100% is at 1.5 million. Give me the number of where this sits at, because I'm not looking at, quite honestly, what we do today. I'm looking at 10, 15, 20 years out, because those individuals running the utility at that time, if something goes wrong, are going to have to deal with this. So knowing that, is it at 80%? Is it at 75% of what would be new, considered new? How much room do they have to wiggle on shaving? What are they going to lose? If I give them a 100% unit 20 years from now that's been running for 20 years, they have to shave and blend, and they shave it down to that 75% level, they're money ahead. So the money we spent today put them a money ahead in the future. So what Matt found was they rated it at about a 75% level. Okay, so it's a used piece of equipment. It's between the cheap economy fix and the top end fix, it falls sort of in the middle. But those other two headaches in there really cost time and money. So Matt and I talked quite a bit, and we've beat this up quite a bit. And actually, this other part of this information I'm giving to you, and this is in this little piece of paper I gave you just as a quick summary tonight. You know, I hadn't provided that to Rhonda. She knew we were going to get all this information, and she trusted us to be smart about what's the angle we're going to go with this. So after discussion, and what I had Matt do is put together his unencumbered balances, his major projects that are sitting there for the power side of this business, which is the gas generation, the rooftop solar that we had built in, and the all-glaze pulsation issue. And I said, no, let's be realistic. We know I do not want to reallocate funds. So we need to run a tighter ship this year and look at those projects and say, what project can we move out to future? Because that money can be moved over to do this turbine and do it the right way. So what's available? So we sat down and we can do some line item transfers and get that particular line for the turbine repair up to about 1.7, which again is over the 1.5, I understand that, but I'm big on having some cushion there for contingencies. We know we're going to have around $70,000 out of our dollars for crane rental, fork trucks, calcium silicate, exhaust stacks, steel seals. I mean, things that we're going to do on our own with our employees finishing this unit up to get it running. We feel comfortable with moving that dollars over, we're going to be okay. That leaves sufficient dollars, I'm not going to say the full amount, but it leaves sufficient dollars in the unencumbered side to address the issues at the all-glaze plant that we know that are in place. Okay? So be it the pulsation, which Matt did some things this year with the water and generation, and we sort of mitigated that pulsation to a pretty acceptable level. So we got through the spring rather well, so we're not as concerned about that. Rooftop solar, since that was brought up earlier, still looking for some numbers, and I can't tell you if that would be a good viable project because you really need to go out for bid for it to get the construction side to come home so you can run those numbers. You know, we put the money there as a end of the year project if it made sense, but again, it's one of those projects that the dollars are needed where they're needed. So our recommendation that we're going to bring to the board is we will bring a $600,000 change order to the Board of Public Affairs at the next board meeting for approval to get Sulzer Turbo Care to complete this turbine at the 300 or 915 compressor blade change out, the right disc, not the right term, discs. I also asked Matt to put the presentation together, just pictures. And Matt will give you more of the correct lingo than I did, because I'm saying disc and platters, and Matt has worked with these guys. I'm trying to grab this, and it's tough when I'm trying to explain to Rhonda, because I'm probably giving the wrong terms, and Matt comes back and goes, no, that's this. And we're going, oh, okay. But I want, before we go any further, Matt, do you want to fire that up and just show us some of those pictures? And did I explain it well enough? Because you've been really hammering this with Sulzer.
Well, I thought so.
Okay.
I have some of the photos back from the inspection report and information from Sulzer here. Just to review real quick the turbine, I'm going to talk about the compressor section right here, and then the turbine section. The compressor section is where the air comes in, it's compressed, taken to the combustion chamber, and then all the turbine section sees all the heat. There's the 5 rows are in the turbine section, and the 16 rows are in the compressor section. That's just a quick review. If I have to go back to that, I can go back to that. This was our rotor setting in the case when we just split the case open again. So just to give you an idea, again, we're talking the compressor section, turbine section right here. The combustors come in here, and the heat is directed into the turbine section.
Matt, right there, the 915 compressor blades.
Yeah, they're here.
So every one of those little blades that you
Every
see
one of those.
gets changed out with a brand new blade.
Right, and the reason for that is the next photos. This is a portion of the compressor section, and this is foreign object damage on the compressor. This is where something got in there, struck the blade.
These are beyond their blending requirements. They're too deep, they can't blend those out. So that just gives you an idea there. The next section is also the compressor, and this is just from long time running, and the blades are wore down thin enough that they're right at the very bottom of their spec. So that was the $1.3 million project. If we go with that, they won't guarantee it because they don't know if one of these blades fails. If one of those blades fail, he has a term he uses is corn cob. Basically, the blade goes through everything and it just strips it down to nothing. So you lose everything you got in your rotor if one fails. So that's why they will not warrant it.
And why Matt's there, I want to point out, and people don't realize this, each one of those fins is independently slid into that ring
Yes, yeah.
and locked in. So it's not like this whole ring gets popped off and we have this ring, we put a new ring on. It's every one of those fins gets popped off. And the ring itself, is that the $100,000?
That's on the turbine section.
On the
not
turbine section.
The turbine section's a lot different due to the heat.
Okay.
The compressor section sees a little bit of heat, the turbine section sees thousands of degrees of heat.
So when those are replaced, they're all,
Yeah, they've got them all stripped out, they weigh them, they measure them, they NDT them, they do everything with all 915 blades. That's part of the inspection. So if there is a crack or anything in there, they'll throw that one out. And there's 122 that they've determined that are bad, that can't be repaired, and the remaining ones are right at the verge, so.
thank you.
Now, this is the row 5 turbine disc. This is the $100,000 disc. And what we're getting is a reconditioned disc, not a new disc. And basically what's happened is these slots right here are what we call the locking pins, and they hold, this is a turbine blade that's slid out of a Christmas tree area. These are like Christmas trees. This is row 4 right here. But they keep the blade from moving actually in there, and they're worn beyond the point of being able to repair. The engineering will not let them weld that up and regrind that. That's how they repair them if they're not too bad. But it's beyond the spec that they're afraid that they could damage it with all the heat they would require to weld that. So, but they're wore pretty bad there. And that's the disc that needs replaced there. These are the marriage bolts. There's 36 marriage bolts. Basically, they hold the whole thing together. And all the fretting in there, and the grooves in there is a place where you could get a fracture under load where it would fail, and it'd be a catastrophic failure. So they're replacing, these are Disco alloy, and they're going with an Inconel alloy that's got full strength up to 1,300 degrees. So they have to replace all the nuts and everything anyhow, and the bolts aren't, they won't pass inspection, so they're going to be replaced.
Each bolt's $4,800 a piece.
They're a lot of money. Now, the last one I have here is what we call the diaphragms. They call them compressor diaphragms in the compressor section. I call them stationary vanes. This is the main shell, and they're pulling them out. There's a half moon on the lower half and then a half moon on the upper half, and basically they set between the rotating blades, and they're all part of the compressor. This really isn't going to be an additional part of that $600,000, but I did want to show everyone the amount of damage on that. Every one of them has the major damage that needs new seals and new repairs. And when they sent back the bid, we had a light, medium, heavy cost, and we were hoping that they didn't get to the heavy cost because that could buffer us some money. But every one of those has heavy repair. So, we've used up a lot of that money of the original PO to repair these compressor blades. So. But they're pretty bad. I mean, this is just a sample. I have a lot more photos, and they all look pretty gruesome like that.
And Matt, I'm going to clarify again, the option to replace all 915 compressor blades and all that work so that it's turnkey, come back home once everything's done, is all-in price of $1,525.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's what we had to do. Yeah.
Now, if we exchange out that option, there's a 75% of the life is left. What about the other options? What, do we have an idea of what percentage of life is left, or?
On the original 1.3 option, don't know. I mean, we're right at the bottom edge and no warranty on that. That's,
Right.
I mean, we started up and we live with it, so, I guess that's anybody's guess, Bonnie, I don't know.
Okay.
So,
It's like,
So you're saying if we replace all 915 of the compressor side,
yeah, we'll get the warranty then.
okay, what do you, ballpark, what do you think percentage-wise, what are you looking at the life of that rotor compared to buying this rebuilt one off the rack at 75?
Oh, I like Bryan says, you know, you've got 25% more life in it because it's already reduced,
Okay.
the used rotor. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, we're getting.
It's got to be better than the,
Oh, yeah, we're getting.
because it sounds to me like that other one that Sulzer's had sitting there, a lot of those blades have already been blended.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you're taking
It's
a gamble.
basically a machine like we sent to them, they reconditioned, and the people that had it canceled their project.
Yeah,
And it's sitting there, so it's a reconditioned blended, it's already been blended,
Yeah.
sure. So, and he's estimating it's at 75%, so.
and another question I had, Matt, that locking ring, the rebuilt that you're going to put back in on the compressor side, I mean on the turbine side?
Oh, yeah, the row 5 disc,
Yeah, what kind of warranty do they give you on that?
well, it would be the same as it'll be the 1-year warranty as.
Oh, okay.
Goes on the
Okay.
whole rotor.
So everything on the rotor is warranted then?
Yes, yes.
I mean,
All their work is.
you're looking at less than $200,000 difference.
No.
That's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, you're getting,
well, when we discussed, you know, we could have brought it to the board just as, hey, here's our recommendation. But there's a lot of work that went into this, and we want the public to understand the skill sets of Matt's team and how much this team has put into this. Again, if you recall, several meetings back, we did some rough calculations, and this particular unit has averted cost savings of over almost $9 million since 2009. Now, I wish, and I can't, but I wish there was a way for us to go back all the way to 1982, is that when that was installed?
Yeah, somewhere in the 80s.
Okay, so I wish there was a way to go all the way back to 1982 and calculate those numbers all the way out. I'm going to tell you, they're pretty significant.
oh, yeah.
For what we've put into
absolutely.
this
You're way
unit,
far ahead.
we haven't done anything to this unit
Right.
since we've owned it. So we've got our goodie out of it. It's what we value that next 30 years, where's the value at? And there is value. You
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
replace this. So that's why we're bringing it to you. That's why these are large numbers, not going to lie.
Yeah.
If the unit lasted that long, was it a new unit when we installed? Of course, this is back before your
It came
time.
from Frankfurt.
So it was used when we got it, and it still lasted this long.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be money. I mean, it's,
The foreign damage that Matt's talking about, as part of all this, we have taken some of those dollars and we've constructed a new filter house with filter membranes and all this extra stuff that wasn't there before.
That's in progress.
Yeah, thank you. And that is to stop any kind of ice damage, foreign material coming in, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we're doing the right thing to make it so that it won't happen again.
Well, I'm here to tell you, we tried to change that, and if I may say, the prior regime wouldn't let us do it. So it's like, this is where you're at. And how lucky have we been, Matt, that
Yeah, with as
That
much
didn't come apart.
movement it was in that turbine, because we're not replacing any of the turbine blades, and they are the expensive. The compressor blades are cheap compared to the turbine blades.
so the wear, actually, the actual wear on it, I mean, other than the damage that was done by the foreign objects, if it wouldn't have been for that, I mean, the wear wouldn't be an issue as far as the operation of the,
Probably not, I mean, we've probably been sucking a lot of grit through, you
Yeah.
know, in the air and so forth, so through the years, and especially when it was running full
Right.
time, that's probably when most of the damage was.
And that's a good
just
point
like
you brought up.
sandblasting,
Yeah.
basically.
If
is
we
what-
would have not have had the foreign damage run and found it with the bore scope, you would have never known these wear rings were going bad and those fins were moving, is the word actuarially correct?
Actually, yeah.
And if that would
In
have
line.
failed at that time, It wouldn't have been a borescope going in, you'd have been picking pieces out of the farmer's field, and us having this wonderful
Well, I
piece of
wouldn't worry
steel
so
that's
much
worth
about that
nothing.
as somebody that got killed. Somebody had been running that turbine would have
I
gotten
would hope that
killed,
would not have happened, but
and that's not worth it.
I guess my point is if it had been properly protected in the first place,
Absolutely.
so hopefully this new one obviously will be, and it should.
We wouldn't
Make a
have
big
been
difference.
dealing with the compressor section, however, the wear on the turbine blades has a lot to do with running the machine in turning gear. That's because, Dick, you can hear those blades are loose and they flop. So, and when it's on turning gear, they just flop and they keep wearing and wearing and wearing. When they're under load, that section doesn't wear. But, that just has to do with the amount of start-stops the unit's had through its lifetime. It just wears on them.
So right off the bat, this unit is used for transmission peak shaving, as well as the capacity markets, as well as backup power resource for the city of Bryan. And it's backup. It cannot be a full power resource for the city of Bryan because we've outgrown a lot of the turbines, so we use them for other things. Just to let you know, and you guys do know, that we missed the transmission peak last winter to the tune of about $1.2 million expense, which is built into everyone's bill this current year because we missed it last year. We have caught half the peak, hopefully we knock on wood, with what we have currently available to run for the next year. So we're probably going to be around $500,000, $600,000 better than what we were. So right off the bat, transmission peak savings, which keeps going through the roof, transmission costs do, this unit alone saves $500,000 plus a year on transmission alone. So in the 3-year period, just having it to run during transmission peaks, it's paid for itself.
Absolutely, and that's a lot of money, that's a big number, $1.5 million.
Yes, it is.
But we all know how quick we're gonna get that back. I know it'll come right back.
That's our goal.
Do
That's
you
our
have any
goal.
idea, Matt, if how far out are we looking now at possibly getting it back together if we go with this? Just
Well,
ballpark.
They're looking 7-8 weeks to get this completed. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, they have work they can continue on because we're under our original PO, so,
Oh, okay.
we haven't exhausted that. So, I mean, this won't hold us up. And
Oh, okay, good.
And I'm in agreement that we take and repair the current unit, the one that we know what it's been through, instead of buying something that's been sitting around for a long time. Might be refurbished, but we don't know what it was put through during its life either.
Well, that's what I was wondering about, because I guess that was going to be one of my questions, is why a place like this would rebuild something like that and then just put it on the shelf and wait for somebody to buy it, but apparently it's a different case than that.
Yeah, it was part of
Yeah.
the project.
Yeah,
a handful
I
of
see
years.
that now, so yeah, that makes a big difference.
So we will be bringing this to you at the next board meeting. I don't need a motion or anything tonight, I don't think, Rhonda, because we're going to be bringing a change order to you. We wanted to be very honest with the public and let them hear the conversation and know what's going on with this. And even though the replacement units, if we were looking at that, might have not been the right thing, we needed to exercise every option out there to make this decision. Okay?
Yep.
So that's where we're at. Thank you, Matt. Thank you for
Thanks,
the hard
Matt.
work and thank you again.
Good job, man.
Okay, number 7, affect semi-monthly disbursements.
In Mary's honor, I say let's pay the bills.
Second,
Dick?
Yes.
Karen?
yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
Number 8, comments from BPA and staff. Bryan?
Couple things I did want to mention, and I'll have Joe step up too if he wants to talk about it. We have had a bunch of phone calls on channel 11 and 13. A lot of those are weather related for one thing. We are not the only cable provider experiencing this problem. Our competitor is failing pretty miserably on this as well with getting this secured, good, strong signal coming in, and based on the weather, it's even making it worse. We have, like I said, on these phone calls with the customers calling in that are upset about it, relayed that it's something we are working on. And Joe did find, do you want to talk about the piece of equipment that you found that had failed and we're going to replace or look at replacing, if that's the right way to state it?
Sure.
Realize Joe's doing the best he can with what we have there.
Last Wednesday, it came to my attention that we were having some problems with 13 going in and out on the system. I went to the head end and ran some tests, and it wasn't doing what it normally does. It was actually going to a black screen, so we were losing video on it. And so I started doing some tests and found out the way we receive 11 and 13 on the analog side only is I'm backhauling that from another location because it will not stay stable on the tower back here. We're too far from Toledo. I've told everyone this multiple times. But we get 11 and 13 off of this one fiber circuit, and 11 will stay stable. Well, I watched it throughout the day, and either Wednesday afternoon or Thursday morning, I noticed that 11 started dropping in and out once in a while. Same situation. So I made a statement at that time that I'm going to have to check into this on Monday since we're closed on Friday. And so I switched everything back over to the main tower feed, got everything stable, and that was working fine. And then Monday, yesterday, I went to this other location and I went over and I did testing and troubleshooting, found out that I had a suspected piece of equipment that's very expensive. I brought it back with me to Bryan to the head end and tested it at the head end and thought the thing was going to work fine. So I left it testing, went over to the head end last evening before the guys left, and the unit sounded like a jet airplane, and the case was so hot on it I couldn't hardly pick it up. So it's a bad unit. Those units, we are not repairing them anymore. They're extremely expensive to repair, and they're obsolete. The company was bought out by 2 or 3 other companies, one of those things. So in preparation for the changeover with the broadcast stations at first this year, late last year, I bought another piece of equipment that we're starting to use now, and I had a new set of it over at the head end. So I went over today and I set that piece of, I'm beta testing that equipment in the head end as we speak, got everything set, and I'm going to this location tomorrow. I'm going to install it and get that backhaul back up again, so 11 and 13 should be far better than they are. Now that's that issue. But what's been happening is, for some reason, there's some atmospheric anomaly that's going on with 11 and 13. Because like Bryan told you, the other cable operators in the area have been having this problem for a couple of weeks. This isn't something new. And they've been having this issue, but the customers don't understand that. I mean, they expect us to deliver them a good quality signal. I'm going to make a statement for the nth time to the customers that might be watching tonight. Channel 11 and 13, we are too far in distance from Toledo to bring them in perfectly at all times. It's because they allow them to broadcast in a different band than the other stations do. The FCC allowed them to do it in 2008, and at the time, I warned them that it would be a problem here. And that's the reason that you have problems. Digital signals break up in that band far greater than they do in the UHF band. And we spent thousands of dollars a few years back to backhaul these 2 signals on an analog basis. We can't even think about backhauling the HD basis. We're going to get into a lot of big monthly fees, and the customers won't be able to bear the rates on it to even try to do that, because that's a totally different technology when you do that. So hopefully by tomorrow noon or tomorrow afternoon, we'll have everything back up just like it was, and barring any atmospheric interference up towards Toledo, where 11 and 13 should be back to normal like it was.
But we're not facing anything differently than what our competitors are.
No, they've been, the last couple of weeks, Bonnie, they've been having problems. Now, the problem we have right now is a separate issue because of that piece of equipment, but But we quickly got everything back online over here on the tower last Wednesday.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. The only other thing I was gonna mention, I think you guys were provided this, solar production for the month of March was exceptional. In fact, if you look at the back page of that, it is within 500 kilowatt hours of what March 2012 was. And that was a record year for us on that field. So it's been a good month there. And that would be it for myself.
Mayor?
Not too much. We had our board meeting last night, council meeting, and we hired some of our summer part-time employees to work. We also hired a new police patrolman. That brings us back up to our total that we had with our changeover with Mike Wallace going to chief and so forth. And we purchased a new street sweeper because the other one went bad. We got one now coming in. Should be here within the next 2 weeks. It's stainless steel. It won't rust out like the other one has and so forth. And we got that coming in, so we hope to improve the condition of our streets along that line. And we're taking a look at, we've had for some time, just a $25 fee for people that go door to door to solicit. We get $25 per month for one person. But what we're finding with certain particular groups that they'll come in and they'll get the $25 for one, but they'll have 4 or 5 in their car that will also go out, and we're getting only $25. And they're selling some of the same products that our own people in town are producing and have, so it's not quite fair, but we're getting $25 and that. And a lot of towns and villages have even $100 going. And we also have elderly, especially, are concerned with people that come to the door after 6 o'clock at night. They don't like that. And ours used to say from dawn to dusk, you could go knock on people's door and ask, and they don't like that, so we backed that up, I think, to 6 o'clock. Took a first reading on it last night and raising the cost from $25 to $50. And when they do go, they have to have a police check and make sure they're clear and so forth and legitimate to go door to door. We're not doing anything differently with any of the other groups. I'm going to throw out the Lions Club, for example, that sell brooms and that. That's fine. That's already in there. We're not doing anything differently than we're doing right now, other than trying to keep these outsiders from coming in and ripping us off. That's what they're doing for $25, and then the people don't like it. They call and say, I call the police, and do they have a permit? And what we're finding, a lot of them that come and try to get checked out then can't even pass the test to go door to door. So that's what we're doing. We have first reading, we'll take second reading next month, so that's about it.
Very good. Rhonda?
No, ma'am.
Al?
I want to thank Lou for this nice annual report. I haven't had a chance to study it entirely, but I did look on page 20, which always I look at. The total unbilled utility services, $1,169,278. And if we run Toledo Edison, the city would be paying that, the schools would be paying that, and you'd have to increase the income tax to pay for it. So we are supplying a lot of free electricity, communications, and water to the community. Look at it, page 20, 1 million. That's all I gotta say.
The other thing with Lou, and I don't know who put that on, but the idea with your one page, it came out in our bills, and you can go to your phone now and get the, put that on there and get your whole thing. Yeah, that's great. So that's
The annual report will also be online as well.
yeah, but to be able to take your phone and take that code and get that was a great idea. So I got some other ideas for you to help us out.
Unless you got a dumb phone.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Well, that's all the comments I got.
Dick?
I just hope everybody had a nice Easter, and that's about it. Life's good.
Karen?
Again, the finances and the purchases made with purchase orders in place, it's another 100% month. So good job, everybody.
Jim? Director?
Yeah, we won't have that next meeting. There is one change order next month. I'm like, thanks for the 2 compliments, but we're gonna get dinged next meeting. So it's all good. And I do want to throw out to Lou and her team, what a wonderful job they did on this
That is
annual
fantastic.
report.
Yeah.
If
I
you,
like the color
It's really well
pictures.
done.
if
That's
the
nice.
community would, if they could see what was originally handed to Lou to work with and what we come out with, it's amazing. It's amazing, so.
Well, it's a lot of people, it's not just me, a lot of other people. The superintendents write their reports and the financials have to be gathered up and Sophia does a lot of that work, so it's a team effort.
pretty much.
Page 20 for the press.
You got that, Max?
20.
Number 9, an executive session to discuss the employment of a public employee and to discuss pending litigation.
It's just a motion, right? I moved. Make a motion, we enter executive session.
Second,
Karen?
Yes?
Dick?
yes.
Bonnie?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Al?
Yes.
I took a recess.